In this video, we're actually going to replace a part that I made back in the day when I was using Fusion 360. So I don't have this original file anymore. So I looked to see if I had the STL, and I don't have that either. So I'm actually going to take the opportunity to redesign it a little bit. What this does, it's actually a piece that holds a curtain rod up. It's in the middle of a glazed door, so there's no way to hold it up. You can't put a bracket to the wall because there's glass that side of the holder. So the curtain rod fits in this part here, and this part fits over the lip of the door, the top of the door. It's actually the frame of the door, and what it does is it holds that curtain rod up. It stops it sagging in the middle, and it works quite well. Unfortunately, it broke right here. Now it's still working with just that little piece like that, but I want to replace it because it's starting to wilt a little bit. Now this is PLA, and with PLA what you find is over time it will start to relax, it'll start to bend. I actually created a screen holder, a wall mount for a screen, for an LCD screen for a computer, and over time the PLA just bent. The weight of the screen caused it to bend, and so PLA is not great if it's just sitting there with a load on it, and if it gets warm it starts to bend. This particular use case works quite well. This one is ancient because I haven't had it since I've been using FreeCAD, so that's been a while. So one of the things I want to do when I do that is I'm going to strengthen up this front peg. So obviously this part here should go all the way down here, and I might put a web in there. This part out the back here doesn't matter. It's actually in the wind, so I can actually go all the way up here if I want to. But this, as I said, this shape has held up pretty well. And this piece here is still tight on the curtain rod. So what I did is I took this piece off and I measured the pieces that are important. And I created a little drawing, I basically traced around it, and then measured the pieces where I cared about the dimensions. Let me just move to that next one so you can see this. This is an important dimension. This is important in that it's got fit in there. This one goes in the front, so not really so important. And then, of course, the most important thing is that the center of this from the bottom of this is 117. It just works out that it's 117 the other way too. I actually dimensioned that wrong. It should be dimensioned from here to here is also 117. So I measured both of those, and they both are 117. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up in FreeCAD, and I'll show you how I create something like this when I know some parameters and I want to do a little bit of freehand design. I'm going to probably do something with these slots, maybe make them a little differently. Those are just to lighten the thing and reduce the amount of material that we use. I am going to print it with probably a good 60% infill so that not so easily distorted. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to guesstimate this height here. Again, doesn't really matter, but this radius matters. So let's show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, so I'm in FreeCAD. Just going to show you my FreeCAD version. FreeCAD. Here you go. I'm version 0.2 or 0.20. I got told off for saying 0.2. 0.20, and it's this Git version. I haven't updated it recently, but I think it's still one of the downloads that's available right now. I've been using 0.20 for the last 2 videos, I think. So I like it. It's working well. It's got some new features. It's working pretty well. So let's go. What I would normally do is I would use my macro and create a new file. I use my startup macro. If you're interested in that startup macro, you can see I have another video that shows you how to do all that. It's very simple, very straightforward, and just makes this first part a lot quicker. But what I'm going to do is I'll do it manually because some people don't understand or use the startup macro. So I'm in Part Design Workbench. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is start a new file, and then I'm going to say Save As, and I'm just going to save this one as rod holder. And then I'm going to create a new part, and then I'm going to create a new body. Now, somebody asked me about why I create a part and then a body. I do that because I don't know, later down the road I might want this to be an assembly, but I like to keep everything, each part in its own discrete part, and then there can be multiple bodies inside that part. I do that as a matter of course, keeps everything nice and clean. Of course, you can create bodies and bodies and bodies and then have to sort them out later, but I don't do that. My mode of operation is the part and then a body inside the part. Okay, then I'm going to create a sketch. I'm just going to create on the XY plane. So first up, we know some things from that drawing. We know that we have that radius here, so I'm going to create that first, I think. I'm just going to pop something in there. And then I know there's going to be a second radius around it, so I might as well create that. And then I know that I need to have a piece, and I'm going to freehand this shape in here a little bit. I need to have a piece that goes from here, it's going to come down here, drop down here, go over here, come up here, drop over there, drop down here, come over here. Now what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to still do it there, but I'm going to come up like that, this way, and then I'm going to bring that up to, let's say, tangentially under there. Or should we just drop it into the middle? We'll drop it in the middle here, I think. So that gives me the basic shape that I'm looking for. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of lines in here. So I know I want to cut it off somewhere between here and here. And somewhere over here. And I'll figure that bit out as I go. Then I'm just going to chop out some pieces. I'm going to take out that piece and that piece. So now you can see I'm starting to get my shape together. And then I can apply some dimension constraints and things that I need. So I kind of like what I have going on here, except this was actually more like this. Came out this way. So I think I'm going to go with it that way because I think you need some bulk here to stop it doing anything crazy in terms of the bending of this PLA. So my weak point obviously is here, but I got plenty of meat over here, and then I have this. This has to be 15. This has to be 5. So I know those things. That should have been vertical. Should have been more careful about how I put those together. So we're going to fix those. So now you can see I'm starting to get my shape that I wanted. Let's put that back in the middle. So remember these buttons over here. So this one, if I move around here, I click that, it's going to recenter. And if I rotate something, I want to put it straight in my sketch. I hit this one and put it back straight in my sketch. And then of course I'm pressing shift, and you can see that little arrow there. When I move this down, and I can zoom in by just scrolling my mouse wheel up. And let's see, what else do I need to do? So obviously I need to make sure that this gap here is wide enough for it to pop open, but I think we're going to be in good shape there. So I don't think there's much else I need to worry about. I did bring this up here. I could have just brought it straight up from there, I guess, but I might just do a construction line this way. So let's put a construction line in. And then I might extend this line. I might come with a regular line in here. I'll just come over to there. And then I might take this line out and bring that line up to the intersect there somewhere. So that's what I'm thinking is we'll make this geometry go that way. When they're blue, they're construction lines. And when they're white, they're just regular lines. So they're part of my model. Okay, so now we're going to start constraining this sketch. So how do we want to constrain it? Well, remember the most important things are over here. Well, I actually want to get rid of this point, so I'm going to actually delete that line, take that line, and I'm going to extend it from this line to that one. And then I'm going to get rid of this part too, but I want to make sure that geometry is right first. So let's go in there and let's do some bits and pieces around here. And I should have had a dimension there. I think that dimension was 26. Let's say our first dimension should be from there. It's going to go to there. And that's going to be 117. But I don't want to change it yet because it's going to mess all this up. So let me just fix a few things first. This one is going to be 5. And this one is going to be 15. And I can make this one equally, can be 5. So now they look similar. And then, as I said, I know this one is going to be from here to here. Oh, it's the wrong dimension. Switched over. They're talking about actually doing, making these dimensions automatic. So it will know if you're doing a vertical or a horizontal dimension. So that would be kind of cool. 26. So I'm going to do that. And let's just, one thing I like to do is I pull the dimensions out just so I can see them a little bit. It doesn't really matter because if you zoom in, zoom out, they move around. But I want to make sure for now I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so that kind of gets that. And then I think this and this have to be on the same line. So that's perfect. So now I've got that little bit squared away. And it doesn't matter what I do with this dimension. It should maintain that piece in the back. And of course I broke that piece, but that's okay. He needs to go over there and he needs to come over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another construction line. These construction lines are not important from a dimensional standpoint, but they are important just to get my stuff lined up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that line to that point there. I'm going to bring that line into there, like that. And then I'm also going to make, so what we got to do is we got to dimension these and lock them in a little bit. So let's do that. I am going to take this line, extend it up through there. And that angle's not all that important. I'm going to extend it this way, and I'm going to trim that line back to there. And then I'm going to trim that line back to there. So now I have that spot where I want those to sit. And I no longer need these construction lines. So I'm just going to delete them out of the way. Point there that I don't need either. I only have 2 points, 3 points even. Not sure what that point is. Huh. Oh, it's a line sitting there. There we go. Okay, so now we've done that. And now we have that. And then I can do this dimension from here. So that's another vertical dimension. That one to that one. And he's going to be 117 as well. So now you see it's starting to make the shape that we want. And then I'm going to dimension this radius. He's a radius of 11.5. Then I can either do this thickness or I can do this radius, which I'm going to do. It's going to be 4.5 more. So that's 15, 16 radius. There we have it. And then I'm going to move this guy up. He comes into there. I'm going to extend this guy. So I'll say extend him till he reaches him. And then I'm going to trim. So I do a lot of my sketching, I do with trimming and extending and that kind of thing. And the reason I do that is I like to sort of build as I go. I like to get what I consider to be the right feel for it. So it makes it look and feel the way I want it to. And then this guy is going to go open him up. I think that's way better. And I think what I'll do is I'll take that line at that point, and I'll just make those 2 points equal. So that now that height is about the same. So that's looking good. We have our 2 radii done. Then what we need to do is dimension from, well, we got to do an angle. We got to do something to lock the ends of those in. So I think we'll do an angle. And we can do it this way. We can say that line to that line. We'll call it 30 degrees. And we'll do that line to that line. I'll call that 30 degrees as well. There, now they look about the same. And then we want some dimensions this way. So let's have a look. Pressing the shift. We're going to dimension from this point. So we're going to do a vertical dimension, that line. And 112 looks good. Then we need to dimension this point. We can do it from here. It's really arbitrary, so we can just go whatever it, round it up to whatever it says. 15.2, I'm going to cancel that because it's saying that's not great. So it has that. So look, I need some angles here, I think. Let's do an angle between here and here. Just rounding it off. Let's do an angle between here and here. That's good. We need to know where this point is. So again, we can do an arbitrary point, I believe. There we go. And then this point here is already fixed. So you can see, one thing you can see, one thing I should point out is, you see as I'm constraining it, all of this starts to change color. And that basically means you've constrained those parts already. So the only piece that's not constrained right now, I'm wondering if that is that. Yeah, it is on that point. So why is that not constrained? Here's what's not constrained. It's 30 degrees, but it doesn't say where it ends. So it only needs to be just past the center. So now I can do a height. I'll do a height there. That's going to be 5, I think. And there you go. So now I have a fully constrained shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a radius on the back here because I think that's a good thing to have. Let's go ahead and do that. That's going to break my fully constrained part, but that's okay. Add that radius there. Call that 15. So you can make that radius a bit bigger, I think. Doesn't need to be that small. Let's call it 30. Let me just Control Z that. I'm just going to relock. So what happened when I put this dimension in here? We lost the dimension to here because the point I dimensioned to is gone. So let's just relock that. So that was 112, and that's what I'm going to lock it back to. And then I'm going to make this 30. And we also blew this up, so that piece there should be my 117 dimension. There we go. That's all locked back up again. So what I did is when I created those dimensions, I created them from the point that existed there, but because I added this radius, the point got lost, and so those dimensions got lost. But I just added them back in, so it's not a big deal. And then we just want to take out some of the weight here. So we're going to do that. And we're going to do that by, last time I created like slots that went on a radius, but to be honest with you, I don't know that I need to do that. I think I might just create a regular old slot. I'll just put 2 in, and then we'll just move them around a little bit to where it makes sense. They're literally just to take out some weight. So that's good there. What might be good is if we create a small radius in that corner there too. Although where it broke off wasn't actually up in here. It was down here somewhere, but I think we'll fix that. So let's do a couple of things. Let's just lock these guys in first. Let's say we'll dimension this radius. We'll call it 8. And we'll make this one and this one the same. And then we're going to make this line and this line parallel. And now we just need to position it. We need to have a distance between here and here too. So let's do a position. Again, this is completely arbitrary, so it really doesn't matter where it is. I'm going to go from there to there and call that 2.5. Then I'm going to go from there to there, call that 30. Do those dimensions so we can see them. And then we can just do the same to the other end here. So think one more to there. And that does it. I just left those dimensions be whatever they turned out to be, because they're totally not important. So that looks like the shape that we want. And we're going to put in a small radius in here. So when we do that, we're going to lose this dimension, but that's okay. We'll add it back. So I'm just going to put a small radius in there. And I'm going to dimension that radius as a 3. And I'm going to say this radius and this radius are equal. And then I'm just going to redimension those things. I'm going to put a dimension on here. That was 26. And we're going to pop a dimension on across here. And that's 15. So once again, we're all set. I wonder if that 3 is too big. I'm going to change that just to be 2. It's just really a stress breaker. So I think that's cool. Everything there's still the same. And we're looking good. Now the thing I might think about is making that a web in there. But I'm thinking of 3D printing, so I can web it one side, but I can't web it both. So let's have a look and see what it looks like as a model. We're going to close that. We are going to pad that. And it's supposed to be 12 millimeters thick. And there it is. It looks okay. I could web one side of it, like cut. For God's sake. I could take a piece out of one side of it just to make it a little thinner, but I don't know that it's worth it. I think I'm going to go with that shape and just 3D print it. And so that's how I come up with a shape or a design or something that I need to do. I'll just create it. I can do it on the fly. I could take a little bit more out of this to thin it down a bit further, but it's only 3D printing, so it's not a big deal. Maybe if I was manufacturing it, I might go cut it in a little bit, but in this case, with it just being a 3D print, I think that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to export this. As an STL. And I will take that into my, so it's called rod holder part pad. I'll take that into my Prusa slicer and I will slice it up and we'll just check it and make sure everything looks good. So let's do that. I'm going to file, save, and I'll see you in the slicer. So here all I've done is I have all I've done is I've imported the part into the Prusa slicer. I used a Prusa slicer for this. I was using Cura, but I switched to the Prusa slicer. I like it better. It's just easier to me. And I think your mileage may vary. It's up to you what you choose. You can, with this guy, you can run down the thicknesses. You can take a look. You can see my infill looks pretty good in there. Everything looks great. If I take a look at my information here, just go simple mode. It's going to take 3 hours to print it. And I have a 60% infill. And it sits right in the middle of my machine there. Everything looks good, I think. You can go through all the print settings. You can change this a layer height of 0.2. And I have 2 parameters, 2 solid layers. Yeah, everything looks good. My infill, you can pick the different types of infill. I normally leave it as that rectilinear. Not going to bother with a skirt or broom. And there's no support material because it's just a very simple print. So my settings 205 is what I have. My bed is going to be a 60. Everything looks great there, and this is all set up for my printer, and so I can send it to my printer from here and it will load up onto the printer there. I've noticed when I do that with this, I use Octoprint for my printing. I have to start Octoprint in a browser first before I send it, otherwise it just doesn't get there for some reason. I guess it's going to Octoprint and Octoprint has to be running. Other than that, everything looks good here. I think I'm going to print one and then I'll show you it once it's printed and we'll see how it goes. So I can send that to Octoprint. Here's my Octoprint. See if it gets there. There it is. Looks like we're ready to go. I haven't printed anything for a while, so I'm just going to go ahead and print it and we'll see how it goes. Now you can see my bed is heating up, and once my bed heats up, we'll be off to the races here. In good shape there, nothing's in the way. Do a little video of it actually printing. I'll add that in here for you. Well, that fit and worked perfectly. It actually came out a lot better than I thought it was going to. Popped it straight in, everything worked perfectly well. It holds the rod up nicely. It's solid. I don't think it's going to bend. It's certainly not going to break on that front part again. I couldn't make the back part any thicker because it has to fit into a slot, so there's no way to put anything extra in there, but that actually supports it, so it stops it breaking off. The front part now has that great big angle on it, so I don't think anything is going to change that. So I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing how I go about designing something, messing with the parameters in FreeCAD, actually using FreeCAD as a design tool, not just the modeling tool, and then also the 3D printing and actually getting to a final part. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, and it looks like I'm about 30-70, so I have 30% of subscribers watch and 70% of non-subscribers watch. So if you're one of those 70% non-subscribers, please give me a subscribe. I really appreciate it, and it'll make you aware of when the next video is coming out. And there's loads more to do. We've got loads more coming. Working on some new ideas and some new things that we can put together so you guys can enjoy. In the meantime, I appreciate it. Don't forget we have Patreon if you want to become a patron, or you can just become a channel member here in YouTube. And again, I appreciate your support. It helps with the channel, helps me to be able to create new stuff, and keeps me going. Thanks. Talk to you soon.